excitement feelings that are in your body and the anxiety feelings that are in your body, if you didn't label them, they feel quite the same. When you get into a rhythm and a flow, then yeah, you'll skip whole chunks of time in there.
Nobody else can tell you like what your best is in your own mentality.
It's healthier for your body really to train different lifts instead of just one all the time. All the other like stuff you're neglecting, they become your weaknesses.
Hey, what's up guys? Thank you for joining me and welcome to the show. It is a true blessing to be able to connect with the top minds in strength each and every week and share stories, insights, and experiences on becoming stronger in every area of our lives. And now I want to do more for you. I want to invite you to join the exclusive private Facebook group of The Strength Connection. In this group, I share the biggest takeaways and lessons from these amazing conversations, as well as training and strength tips for pursuing mastery and fulfillment in life. This group is filled with individuals looking to take full control over their strength in their lives, and it's the perfect space to explore ideas and share your journey. You'll also get exclusive access to the Strength Connection Mastery Seminars. It's a deep dive into physical, mental, and spiritual training that you can begin using immediately. Just go to the Facebook groups, type in the Strength Connection, and you'll be accepted immediately. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the inside. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Maria, it's so nice to meet you. I'm so pumped that David introduced us. This is going to be awesome.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
Yeah, so again, across the pond into Ireland, I got a chance to take a look at some of your accomplishments. You've been in this sport world for quite a bit, setting quite a few records. Congratulations. It's awesome.
I'm an old lady at it now.
Who said that to me? It's like, yeah, when you have records, it just means you've been doing it a long time. It means you're getting old.
It just means you're old. It's time to dye your hair again or shave it off. Well, it's funny because I was like, when I started, it was all GS stuff, which is the 10-minute comps with one hand change. And over lockdown and all of that, I did a lot of, I trained all the way through lockdown, but I was doing pent and I was doing marathon and half marathon, which is all multi-switch, which is great, but it completely ruins you for the 10-minute stuff. So then this year I had decided, right, I'm done with 10-minute stuff. I'm not doing any of that anymore. I'll just stick with my multi-switch because it's so lovely. And then I heard the Worlds were in Porto in Portugal and I was like, holiday!
So there you go.
I decided to try and qualify for the team and it was hellish.
Really?
Oh my God, yeah, like all of my grip endurance was gone, just completely gone. I struggled to do 16-minute snatch. Like for the nationals, I only scraped to 7 minutes snatch with the 16. And then just about managed to scrape the 10 minutes by the time I got to Porto in Portugal. But my reps from Porto were 1 rep less than the first time I ever managed to snatch a 16 for 10 minutes. So it's like, I feel like a very experienced beginner because my numbers are right back where I started from, but I have all this experience. But I'm now like rubbish.
Oh God. Well, I'm sure it's not rubbish, but that's a great thing. An experienced beginner. I think we can all kind of have been in that situation before. What is it? Is it just the hand switch and the grip endurance? That's such the difference between the competition world and doing pen?
Yeah. It's like 5 minutes on one hand is a lot. And like with snatch, it's quite fast. So like if you're a good snatcher, you can do 20 reps per minute, easy. So that's like 200 reps over the 10 minutes. That's a lot of work for one arm. So I just find my forearm just gets fried.
Yeah.
Absolutely fried. Like cardio wise and strength wise, I'm fine, but I just can't hold on to the bell anymore.
Right.
Yeah. And then all like snatch is so technical. It looks like the easiest lift because it's just bell goes up, bell goes down. You know, what's so hard about that? But like all the little like tweaky things, I've just forgotten all of them because it's been so long since I practiced snatch.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Well, especially in something like that where you're doing it for 10 minutes straight. It's like, you know, for some certain reps and some certain sets, it's probably fine. Your technique's overall there. But when I was talking to David, it's like any little like off technique, you're going to feel it over 10 minutes. It's just going to eventually just, come up over that time.
Yeah. So I'll find you out. Like it's the same when you step up from the amateur weights to the professional weights. So for women, it's like 16 kilos to 24. And for the men, it's the 24 is up to the 32. Like you can get away with technique with the 16 that once you pick up the 20 or the 24, you just can't lift it. Like, and it's not that you're not strong enough. It's like I did double 2-arm long cycle with 2 16s. And even jumping up to the 18s, I just can't do it because whatever way I've developed my technique to lift the 16s, it just doesn't work for the 18s. So I'm not stacking. I'm not stacking properly. But that was okay. Really? That was okay when I was doing the 16s, but the 18s are like, nah.
Oh, wow. Sorry. It's so crazy, just that little change, that little jump.
Unless everything's lined up, bell says no. It's like,
yeah.
No.
Okay. All right. Well, I know you've had all the experience in the sport world in competitions, but you've also done a lot of the endurance based work, the 30 and the 60 minute, I believe, as well. And then getting into pentathlon. If we can bring it all back to kind of how you got started in this world, what was it about kettlebell sport that was so intriguing to you? I know you were in athletics and then was in, I'm going to say it wrong again, but Kyokushin karate for a long time and then kind of transitioned to it. What was it about this particular model that really interested you?
Well, I actually started kettlebells because I'm a dog groomer. And when I started my own business, my back and my shoulders were so sore from like working like this all day. I couldn't. I remember I was standing there one day before Christmas, which is one of our busiest times of the year. And my back was aching and my arms were aching. And I was trying to groom this dog. And I was like nearly crying because I didn't know how I was going to finish it because I just wanted to lie down. And so I was like, I need to get my arms stronger because most people have quite strong legs, but not strong arms. Like women especially, they just don't use their arms for much. So I looked up classes. I just thought, I've heard of those kettlebell things. I'll give that a whirl. And initially started doing just circuit training with kettlebells and just absolutely loved it. Loved the training, loved the gym where I was. All the people there were really good fun. And then probably 2 or 3 years into that, a competition appeared and it was like, what's a competition? So it was, at that stage, there was only one 10-minute comp in Ireland every year. And then the following year there was 2. And then like at the moment, like in the UK and Ireland, you could be doing competitions every weekend nearly if you wanted to. So yeah, my first ever competition was with a 12 kilogram bell and I trained 3 months solid for it. And then I just went back to my circuit training. But I don't know, I think there's just something in some people's mindset where they don't mind doing a repetitive thing. Even when I was in karate, like our gradings were like, do 100 kicks with your right leg, do 100 kicks with your left leg.
Okay.
Now do 100 push-ups. You know, they were trying to like test your spirit. So it didn't really matter if you couldn't do the 100 kicks as long as you tried your hardest and gave it all you had.
Okay. Was that like repetitive focus of it? I mean, I understand that from coming from a world of kettlebells and the process of mastery, like you need to do the same thing over and over again to build it and sustain. But some people feel it right away, like this is what I need to do. But other people just naturally just keep doing it for the sake of they feel they're getting stronger. Did you adopt to this kind of mindset of wanting to like master something right away? Or was it something that just kind of came about as you were practicing?
Well, I think there's like probably 2 parts to it. Like it's quite meditative, you know, if you've got something that you don't need to think too much about every rep, you just do it again and again and again. You can kind of switch off a lot of what goes on in your head. Kind of like running. If people who like running, you know, it's just step, 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 step. And it's quite relaxing. So there's that aspect to it. But then on the other hand, there's actually a lot going on with every rep. So, you know, you're trying to think of how your posture is, how your balance is, how your breathing is, and then each of the technical parts of each of the lifts. So you're trying to, while you're doing the same thing over and over, there's probably, you know, 20 or 30 different thoughts going through your head. And you just think, if I can just get my lockout, you know, and then the minute you get your lockout, it opens up this whole other world of stuff. Like you think that's the top of my mountain. If I can reach there, I'll be just amazing.
I'll be fine, right?
Yes, I'll be like amazing magical unicorn who can lift all the things, and it'll be brilliant. And I won't even have to try. It'll be just like, oh yeah, no, I just do this, no problem. But then the minute you get to the top of that mountain, it like opens up this whole other world to you that you're like, oh, now you can master all of these things. So it's just never ending really, but it's enjoyable.
It's enjoyable. Oh, okay. Enjoyable, I'm when you got into that first competition with the 12K, did you you like feel the itch right away of like, oh, I love this? Or was it like, okay, that was
Yeah.
fun, and just kind of went back to your regular routine?
Yeah, well, I love competition, and I love like it's the anxiety beforehand and getting up there and just being completely petrified for the whole thing. And it's the relief when you come off the platform as well, that you kind of go, oh, thank God I survived. You know, it's just like, okay, can I do it again?
Yeah. It's a weird thing, right? When it's like, it feels like eternity when you're in it. And then as soon as it's done, it feels like it went over, it went
10
done in
minutes
like
never
2
felt
seconds.
so long. Like 10 minutes never felt so long. It's like, how can it still be so much time to go before I switch hands?
Right. Yeah.
It's horrendous.
Yeah.
So
So
it's
you,
like that's why they give out those flyers. If you do fun runs and 5Ks and stuff, they always give out the flyer for the next race at the end when you've crossed the finish line, and you've got endorphins, and they're like, sign up for my run, I give out t-shirts, and you're like, okay.
yeah, you don't know that 15 minutes ago you were cursing the world and you wanted to die. It's like, and then you're done. Oh yeah, I can't wait to do the next one again.
It's like when you're at the comp waiting to go on, you're just so stressed out. Well, why do I do this? Why do I do this? Never again. But then like if you were there and you were injured or not competing for some reason, all you would want is to be able to get on the platform and do anything. So it's like, that's part of being human, I guess.
Yeah. Have those kind of be like pre-competition jitters and that mindset, has that changed for you over time as you got more experience?
That's just the worst.
It's like, still there. Okay.
Oh, it's like with a vengeance. It doesn't matter whether it's like World Championships or 5-minute comp down the local club. It's just complete anxiety. I've created a hashtag called the JitterShitters for what happens the night before and all that morning, basically until you get on the platform. It's like, I'll just go to the toilet one more time. I'll just go one more time.
Right. So I'm so glad that you said that. I think it's such an interesting lesson of strength, and especially getting into competition, because the natural thing that we a lot of times think is eventually just those jitters are going to go away. It's like, oh, I've been here before, I know what to, but
I think to a certain, some things do get better. So I was at the Worlds in Portugal this year, and it was probably my 4th or 5th World Championships, but like I've been to a lot of big competitions, so that's fine. And it was interesting meeting girls who were doing it for the first time. And it was like, I was anxious and I was shaky and I was going to the toilet 700 times, but they like, I had a calmness about me because I knew how it worked and I knew to bring chalk, and there was a lot of things I knew. Whereas the other girls, it was a whole different level of fear. It was proper fight and flight, like, oh!
Right.
I remember going to my very first one just before I left for the airport, and I had to run it out my back garden, get my 8-kilogram bell and do a few reps of snatch, because I just thought, I've forgotten how to do snatch. I'm going to the World Championships and I've forgotten how to do snatch. So, the taxi's waiting and I'm in the garden just doing a few reps because I might not touch a bell before I get on the platform.
Right. What if I forget everything that I've learned?
It's so embarrassing to have flown all the way to Kazakhstan and just stood there going, I forget how to do it.
Oh my, that's so fun. I've talked to people before in the Strong First community with doing their snatch test, and no matter what, you could do it a million times. I still have dreams like a couple months before where you just forget how to snatch and you're like, why can't I do this? I've been doing this before. And it's like, you know, there's no merit to it, but still it's like, but as you said, like,
snatch is just special, isn't it? Snatch will always get you.
It must be. It's just that movement. But it's funny, as you said, like once you're on the platform and you're just into it, then it's like, all right, all that shit goes away, and then you're just doing what you've been doing, you know, forever. It's still
just like for the whole thing.
Yeah, it's still that challenge.
What happened?
Yeah, exactly.
That was really good, and you're like, was it? I don't know what happened. Okay, good.
Yeah, but I think it's a great message for people in strength journeys, is that those jitters, it just because they're still there doesn't mean anything's wrong. They're going to be there probably. And especially if it's something that is challenging, something that's important to you, like, you're going to have some anxiousness to it.
Yeah. And if you spent a lot of time training for it, like my first Worlds, I would have trained just for that for a good 2-3 months, maybe the whole year, really building up to it in one way or another. And then fly all that way, spend all that money. And you think it's 10 minutes. Like if I mess it up, that's all for nothing. Like, I know it's not for nothing, but like it would just, if you drop the bell in the first minute, like that's it, it's over.
Right.
You've done all of that and you won't even have got, like for me, it's always about trying to do your training justice on the platform. It's not about the medals. It's like, I want to go up there and I want to give my best. And I don't want to come off and think, oh, could have done another few reps. I shouldn't have paced myself. Just leave everything up there and you end up wherever you end up. You know?
Right. Yeah. Well, because then if you're focusing on where you're going to place or like getting to a specific spot in some things, like then you're trying to force an outcome that's not under your control. It's like, but if you go in and you do your absolute best and just focus in it, I think that's a great lesson to anything. It's prep as much as possible of get it. Like I just had my good friend, Sven Rieger on, who just did the Denis stone work. And like when he went over there, like he said they had to do it on these rubber black mats that he didn't train on. He didn't know the environment of it. There was like 30 people there when he didn't anticipate that. And the message he had was like, you never know what's going to happen. Like you don't know what the environment's going to be, how you're going to feel.
Everything.
But he's like, I know I have the strength, I prepared for it. And then you just give it your best. So, you know, in a 10-minute test or in the Worlds, it's the same type of thing, regardless of what it is.
And when I was when I was prepping for my second year, so the first year I went to international comps, I was like, I'll just use this year as research and then I'll try and win things next year. But then the first year I ended up winning things. I was like, what happened there? So I was kind of a bit out of it. But the second year, I still, like, I'm quite an anxious person anyway, so I still had all those feelings, and for me, they'll probably never go away. But I decided to tell myself they were my ready feelings. So when I was feeling like I wanted to go to the toilet and get sick and lift bells, I was like, this just means I'm ready to lift.
Right.
I kept telling myself, because when you think about it, like the excitement feelings that are in your body and the anxiety feelings that are in your body, if you didn't label them, they feel quite the same. There's just an element of fear attached to the anxiety because so, but the kind of trembly and the butterflies in your tummy and the sweaty palms, like that's the same if you're really excited about something. So it's kind of like a brain hack. You go, no, this means I'm excited, not that I'm terrified. These are my ready feelings. Yay. And that worked for me for a good 2 years. So that's one worth having.
Yeah. You know, I think I'm glad you said that. I remember I read an article about that where it is a scientific thing that it's the same chemicals that are releasing in your body, whether you're nervous or whether you're excited. The only thing that changes is our perspective. However we think of, that's really interesting. So, I love that. That's interesting.
Because I read an article about smiling while you train. Now, I used to smile a lot in the gym because everybody else was suffering more than me. So I was like, just laughing at them. But they said if you smile, it tricks your brain into thinking you're having a good time. So if you're doing that while you're training, then you're not kind of dreading it, or you're not working as hard as someone who's kind of going, you know.
Oh, wow.
They said even if you get a pen and put it in your mouth, or a pencil, something that forces your things back into the shape of a smile, that works. That's enough to trigger the happy feelings in your head. So you can just like,
no shit. Oh, that's so great. Next time I go for a run, I'm just going to be smiling from ear to ear, and I'm going to see people are going to think I'm like the Joker running around.
That psycho's out for a run again. Come in, children.
Exactly. Oh, that's interesting. So after your first competition, then you said right away you went to international competitions. That was your next one?
No, I would have done my first competition ever 2012, and then my first international comp would have been 2016.
Okay. Was that still just the snatch, or were you able to get into long cycle then as well?
First competition ever, 2016 was still snatch only for women. Because I think they were afraid, or if they let us lift doubles or whatever, that our boobs would explode and our ovaries would fall out. It's a real hazard. So
it's the real science of training right there.
It was for our own good. It was for our own good. So then the second year I lifted 2017, they let us do 1 arm long cycle, and they did trials of doubles. So they were like, right, try and lift 2 bells, and if no one dies, we'll think about adding it to your program. So I was part of the first. Well, they didn't quite say it like that. Obviously, they can't, but like, you know, that's the undertone. So in Seoul, at the World Championships in Seoul in South Korea in 2017, I was part of the first lot of girls to get up and lift doubles for 10 minutes, and we managed not to die. So now it's just part of the program.
So now it's just part. Yeah, you proved some good stuff at that point. That's great. Yeah. Did you train a lot of long cycle before you went into competition? Like, even though you didn't compete in it?
Well, 1 arm long cycle would have been my lift that I naturally loved. And then the only reason I learned to snatch was because I had to really to go international, which was a blessing and a curse really. Like snatch is just awful. Just some people take to it straight away, but I didn't. I was awful.
Why do you not like it so much? What is it about the snatch that's just?
I just I struggled with every aspect of it for 18 months, and I trained. That's all I trained for 18 months. So like it was hellish. So like there's like lockout. I still can't do proper lockout. It still wobbles around the place. Lockout, hand insertion, the drop, the catch, the backswing, the upswing. Right. So there's all the different bits, and then there's all the different ways that you might try to do those bits. And I just couldn't get any one bit to stick. So in one session, I'd get, oh, I've got the drop really nice. Oh, brilliant. I've got that now. I can just try and add something else. And then I'd go in the next session and the drop would be gone. And I wouldn't be able to do that anymore. And but I'd get the catch. But I just couldn't get it all to line up. And I think for a good year, every time I got on the platform, I had no idea what was going to happen. And you have to be very relaxed to snatch well, and I'm not naturally a relaxed person, so it'll find you out. You find like the really strong people, the people who like to rip and rip, the kind of beast mode people. They don't like snatch. They don't get on with snatch.
Okay. Is that because, so with the straight set, so you have to drop from the top on that, I'm assuming. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I'm wondering because like with the long cycle work where you can rest it more in the rack, almost that beast mode can probably work a little bit more.
You've got 3 rest places in long cycle, don't you? You've got overhead if you're a sixth, and then you've got rack on the way up and on the way down if you want. And then it's nicer than jerk as well because the clean just takes the pressure off your forearm. So long cycle has a lot going for it. Snatch, not so much. But some people love snatch straight away. We call them the weirdos. Just
those crazy people right there.
Weirdos.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the 10-minute test, but you also went into more of the ultra endurance work with 30-minute and 60-minute events, correct?
Yeah. And in a way they're longer, but you can change hands as many times as you want, so that makes it easier. So most people most people will change every 30 seconds, and then for some events like jerk, people would change maybe every 5 reps and do that for the whole 30 minutes. So yeah, I haven't done a whole lot in that world. I've done maybe 4 or 5 competitions. And then there's different lifts as well. Like so long or marathon and half marathon also have half snatch, which I really like. Because it's like the best of both worlds. You get the lovely swingy up part of the snatch, but then you drop it like long cycle. So that's just like brilliant for me.
Yeah. I was going to ask if you liked half snatches any more than just straight snatches.
Oh yeah. Because you don't have to do the drop. The drop is where all the skin comes off your hands.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. In the hardstyle world, like I found that half snatching for just overall training, I like better than just regular snatching, just because you get that vertical position a lot more. It just seems like it's just a much more natural groove. My friend Chris Abbott and Tim Allman told me about that. And as soon as I did that, I was like, ooh, this hit right away.
You get the same cardio hit because it's fast. Like I can half snatch at the same pace that I would snatch at. So I can do 10 reps every 30 seconds or whatever, or maybe more. So I could keep up with someone who's brilliant at snatch when I'm half snatching. So it's the same from a cardio perspective, but you can, you don't have the technique of the drop, which is what fries your forearm as well and the grip. And it just takes so long to master if you're not natural at it. So what inspired you to want to go into a 30-minute and 60-minute? Obviously there's more hand switches, so that's easier, as you put it in right there. Yeah. However, you're doing triple to 6 times the time of having the bell in the air from there. Was that just something that you kind of were looking for a new challenge, or was this just something? Yeah, that was it. Absolutely. It was just like, oh, I haven't done that yet, so I'll give that a whirl. Because at that stage, I was probably after 3 or 4 years, 3 years, I'd say, on the 10-minute circuit, doing nationals as a qualifier, and then doing the Europeans, and then doing another national competition, and then doing the worlds. So that's like at least 4 big competitions every year at 10-minute things. And then it was like, oh, I'll give that a whirl and see what that's like. How hard can it be? Depends on the lift you pick. That's really what decides it. Because I've done half hour of one arm jerk. That was awful. I don't recommend that to anyone.
Okay.
You can just do so many reps with jerk, and it's just, there's no break. Like, it's just sad.
Yeah. Well, that's what I remember when I talked with Denis Vasilev, he said that it's like you can always do another rep with the jerk.
Yeah, because it's so short, but like that just makes it hellish.
I'm sure.
Half hour never felt so long. Like, I was kind of going, oh, I'm a bit bored. Like, can I stop for a cup of tea or something?
Yeah. That's what I was going to ask about. Like, was there a big difference in just overall mindset from going from like a 10-minute challenge to 30-minute? Because it's like, I almost assume it could be easy to kind of let your mind wander when you're in a time frame like that.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a great one for whatever music is on, just singing along with it and not really paying any attention to what I'm doing. And like, I wasn't seriously, I was just trying it out really. You know, I was just kind of curious rather than I want to do this and I want to hit these reps and blah, blah, blah. And I find the training for it, like all the sets are like 16 and 20 minutes long. And it's like, so I'd rather just like do my pent training or do my 10-minute training and then just have a go at the 30-minute and the 60-minute thing.
Okay, so not train for it, just see how it goes.
Yeah, it just takes too long.
Yeah, what's the biggest difference? Is it the cadence that's different, or is it just the overall volume that is just the major changer?
Well, like they'll be doing the same pace. They'll be doing max reps.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. Like I was a complete newbie when I went to the first Worlds for the marathon and half marathon. And I remember talking to one of the women from Ireland who'd been there the year before, and she said, they'll be hitting max reps for the entire 60 minutes. And I was like, okay, then I'll be an also ran.
Oh my God. Yeah.
Yeah. Like the people who train for it, they are hitting, you know, for snatch, it's going to be 20 reps a minute for the entire 60 minutes.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, easy. Like the men will be doing that with 24 or perhaps 32. Well, now that's like top, but like men will do a 30-minute set with snatching 24s, and it's like,
oh my God,
they'll be up over 500 reps easy. And then like the girls that I was against, so 16 kilograms for the hour or 20 kilograms for a half hour, and they would have been doing 12-13 reps easy for the whole time.
Wow.
Yeah.
I did not expect that. Like, I thought it was just a nice, slow, easy pace from there. 500 plus reps.
No, that's what I did. So
yeah.
Then, you know, the real people, the people who this is their bag, like, and this is what they do. Yeah, no, they'll be hitting max reps because they'll change every 30 seconds. So, you know, it's easy. You'll get through the first 10 minutes just with trying to settle yourself. The next 10 minutes is kind of where you bop along. And then the last 10 minutes is where you actually have to work to get to the end. But like the jeopardy with those sets is that if you drop the bell or put the bell down before the 30 or 60 minutes, you're just disqualified.
Right, exactly.
That's like horrific.
Oh, that's awful. Yeah, so you're 25 minutes in, like you have to keep the bell up.
29 minutes in with a world record score and you drop the bell. Like, that's just horrific. That's just mean.
Yeah, oh my gosh, that's crazy. So what was it about these ultra endurance type challenges that intrigued you so much? It's like, I know like it's a good challenge, but like that's pretty crazy. Have you always just enjoyed the like endurance type challenges?
I like just seeing what I'm able to do, and especially with something like that when you haven't trained for it. You're not really going to be disappointed, are you? Because if you train for it, then that brings expectation and you're invested and all of that. So when you go in, and I didn't specifically train for it, I just said, I'll just see what happens. It's always nice to kind of to see where you end up with things. So for me, it was just curiosity because, you know, it would been probably the first time it was in Ireland, and it was like, oh, this looks fun, you know, and like, I always count one arm long cycle as my easy lift. So I'm like, sure, like I could do that. That'll be all right. And the hour did feel long because like, you're just like 15 minutes in going, only 45 more to go.
Oh yeah, I know. Really, that's more of just it's like a war of attrition right there. It's like,
I just try and relax and go to your happy place, and I sing along with the songs, and I just try not to think about it. And if you can get in a rhythm with your lifting and kind of go with how it's feeling, then the time, you should be able to skip chunks of time here and there. If you're watching it all the time, you know, I don't think you'd spend long at training it, because why be miserable? Like, there's so many sports you can do. And even within kettlebell sport, there's so many things you could do. Like, there's no need to be doing things that you're miserable at. Some people kind of use exercise as punishment, or, oh, you know, if I'm not like going, oh, then it's not worth it. But like, you can actually enjoy it. That's okay too. It's
absolutely.
Still got the same benefits for your body. Like,
yeah, that was the first time when I first saw kettlebell sport competition, and just the different technique aspect. It's very different from hardstyle work, but there's such a flow and such a grace to it that you can see. You mentioned it early on, it's that meditative based state where I said, like, I could totally see, like, this is such a mental and like emotional aspect rather than just the physical of getting in. So it's fair. Like, I would say like 30 minutes, like, that's crazy. I could totally see why that could be really intriguing though.
Yeah. I mean, when you get into a rhythm and a flow, then you'll skip whole chunks of time in there. And if there's some good songs on, then you're like, happy days. Just sing along, you know, every song is another 3 or 4 minutes gone, and I'm like actually singing on the platform. I'm like, yay. Like,
that's awesome. Oh, that's gotta be a sight and a half to see.
I kind of love it. Is she even taking this seriously? I'm like, this is how I cope.
This is exactly. Yeah, this is my happy place. So when did you get into pentathlon training? Which, as mentioned before, I knew Finbar, who's done pent training before, which is, it's 5 different lifts. Is that right?
Yeah, it's 5 different lifts. There's clean and strict press, jerk, half snatch, and push press.
Okay.
So you get 6 minutes at each lift, and it's multi-switch for each one. And then you get a 5-minute break in between, which means like you're completely fresh then for your next lift. Or so the theory is.
Yeah, I don't think so. Okay. Is it always that same is it always that same order that gets in? It is.
Yeah. So they put the cleans first. A lot of people go like, that's going to be your heaviest lift, really. Because a lot of people can clean really heavy, but you got to be careful that you don't rip your hands, because like for half snatch later, then that would be sad if you had ripped your hands. Got to be careful not to rip your palms or to like completely fry yourself, because there's a lot of big lifting still to come.
Right.
So there's a bit of strategy involved, and it's nice to train 5 different lifts, because you'll nearly always have a win at every training session between each of the lifts, you know, so you don't tend to plateau as much, or if you do plateau, it's not as soul destroying as if you're just training 1 or 2 lifts. Like if you're training snatch and you plateau, like training is sad for a long time, whereas when you're training pent, even if 1 lift is a bit stuck, you can still motor on it at the other 4 and feel like you're improving. So it's nice from a mental place. There's a lot of strategy involved potentially. You know, like sometimes depending on what bells you lift, you may get more points, say for jerk, which is 120 reps. Potentially you could get more reps lifting a 20 for 100 reps than lifting the 18 for 120 reps. So like there's pent calculators. So you can get all strategic about it. But you and I could lift totally different weights and end up with the same points, you know, if we lifted different weights for each.
Okay. So there's a 6-minute time frame that you have to lift it, but if you get to that certain rep range, are you just done there?
Yeah, yes. Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
So they don't let you lift after that. So like if I do my 120 cleans in 5 minutes, I get an extra minute break. Just
gotcha. Okay. Is that a good strategy to do for certain lifts? Or?
I tend to finish early on clean and press, because clean and press is all like it's arm strict press, and arm wise I'm not that strong. Like I use my legs a lot when I'm lifting. So I tend to lift 16 kilos for that. And that's quite light for me, but like 18, it may as well be a 20 or 24, like 2 kilos is like,
really?
Yeah. So I tend to finish my clean and press in just over 5 minutes, because the 16 is a bit too light, but the 18 is way too heavy. So what am I to do? So I just have a longer break then. Okay. But in general, they'll say try and lift the heaviest bell you can, and try to space your lifting out so that you finish in the time instead of kind of rushing it. Or I think if you do proper reps and you have your proper fixation, you shouldn't be finishing too much earlier.
Right. Okay. Yeah, I'm trying to go through different strategies just without ever doing it before in my head right now of, you got to leave something. Yeah, I'm sure.
Boggles. Yeah, it's brilliant.
Yeah. Okay. How do you train specifically for pentathlon work? Do you do all the lifts in every session, or do you break up your week into specific kind of lifts?
At the moment, I'm doing 3 sessions a week. One of those is 1 arm long cycle and snatch, just to keep those ticking over, because coming back to the 10-minute stuff after 2 years of doing multi-switch has been so hellish that I never want to be at that place again. I want to always be able to do 10 minutes with the 16 snatch and 10 minutes with the 1 arm long cycle 24. Even if it's like the reps are like absolute minimum, just to be able to do it, because I just couldn't believe that I couldn't do 16 kilogram snatch for 10 minutes. I was like, oh my God, it's all gone. Everything's gone. So I have 1 session of that a week, and then I've got 2 pent sessions. And at the moment, it's all 5 lifts on both sessions. But when I was doing 3 sessions a week, all pent, then I would have 1 session in the middle, which was just picking out maybe 2 or 3 of the lifts to really focus on, or work up heavier weights on. So a different kind of a rhythm to it. So say last night, like my training was 5 rounds of a minute on, 30 seconds off for each lift. So it took about 45, 50 minutes to do.
Okay.
So the training takes a bit longer because you're doing 5 lifts, and warming up takes a bit longer.
Right.
Try and work your way up through the bells for all the lifts and, all of that. So that bit's a bit longer, but it's healthier for your body really to train different lifts instead of just one all the time. If you're doing the same lift all the time, like snatch, you get really strong in that plane, in that
one particular lift. Yeah.
But then all the other like stuff you're neglecting, they become your weaknesses. So
right. Have you found of training like more with pentathlon with the extra lifts, has that carried over into maintaining or helping your work with like the 10-minute long cycle or the snatch work?
Well, I'd still count my return to 10-minute stuff in the baby phase right now. Okay. So I still go, when it's that session. So we're not back in love yet, but hopefully we'll get there. Else I'll just make a new vow to bin it off and stick with multi-switch forever.
Right. Once you get into that, yeah.
That was the old me. That was before the good stuff showed up. Multi-switch forever.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure. Well, I'm sure going from just the one hand switch in 10-minute to the multi-switch just has to feel like just fresh energy every like 30 seconds or every minute. Yeah.
It's like, I'm a little bit tired. I'll just change hands. I just don't like this arm anymore. I'll just change hands. And then like... You're 2.5 minutes into a 10-minute set going, I'm in bits. It's like only 2.5 more minutes to go. Yeah.
I know. And that with that 2.5 minutes, right, they can just feel like an absolute eternity when you're getting there. Yeah,
it really does. So it's nice to have the change, but I don't know if I'm just like being a complete egomaniac, wanting, like I've always wanted to do everything and to be good at everything and to be better than everyone else at everything, which is like total egomaniac. Like really, I could probably just let the 10-minute stuff go and just focus on pent, but I don't know, just haven't quite been able to bring myself to do that yet.
So is that the goal? Like, is that to win all the different events in one particular time frame?
Oh, well, like I can, like, no, you misunderstand me. Like I can already do that really at my, like in my weight category, I want to be better than everyone who's ever lifted well ever. Like I'm completely
I love that. Yeah.
I know that it's not possible, but like, it doesn't stop me wanting to do it. And I just go, well, if she can do that, then I should be able to do that. And it's like, she's 15 kilos heavier than you. And I'm like, so?
Yeah. So?
And? Like, why can't I get those reps? She makes it look easy. It's like, yeah, but like mass lifts mass. And I'm like, that old chestnut.
Yeah. Well, honestly, I see like some stuff like with competitions like that, like in order to want to endure that type of physical challenge on there, you can't think of that just logically. You kind of have to have a little bit of a mentality like that to step up and going. I mean, the one that I saw that seems like he's just so stoic in everything was Denis Vasilev, where it's just, but I know he's like a freaking animal, like in his mindset of when he steps up there, he's like, no, I'm beating everybody in here. So I think your mindset is more normal than I think you might think there.
Oh, once I get to the platform, like once I get to the competition, I'm a complete like, oh God, they all look really strong. Oh God, like I'm a complete wimp once I get there. I love the training, and I love like playing at training and trying to, I wonder if I can lift the 28 today or whatever it is. And I love just giving it my all at training. And then when the comp comes, whatever happens. I found that when I started to focus on reps and trying to hit numbers and all that, like it just got really stressful. When I first started training kettlebells, we used to just get 2 minutes on your right arm, 2 minutes on your left arm. It was just based on time. And I never counted my reps as I lifted. And I never had targets for reps as I lifted. And every time I went to a competition, then it was just a nice surprise, because I had no idea what sort of pace I was lifting at training. So I was never disappointed. I didn't know I might have been hitting 24 RPM at training, and I only came out with 22 at the comp, because I never counted. And it was always just great. Not only is training done and I perform well on the platform, but I hit X reps and I got a medal. Yay. It was always cool. And then when I changed coach, it was like, do 2 minutes at, 20 reps a minute, and then do 3 minutes at this reps a minute. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I was like, I'm trying to count, and I can't count and lift at the same time, because I like to kind of get out of my head.
Right.
So I'd be like, was that 7 or 8? Oh God, I don't know. Oh, well, I better video it and count it back later. Yeah. But like, once I started trying to go, I should be doing this and I should be hitting these numbers, kind of the kind of childlike fun went out of it.
Yeah.
Because every training session, there was goals and there was targets, and it was serious and it was important. And well, I had to do that to win, right? And it's like, well, no, not really.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of trying to come back around to how I was at the beginning, but it's hard once you start counting reps to stop counting reps.
Right. Yeah. No, I totally understand where you're coming from, especially on the like a rigid structured based type plan versus some creativity in there. Yeah. And I've talked with this a lot with people. It's like, it's got to be a little bit of a combination of both, but especially if you want to compete and you want to really do your best, like nobody else can tell you like what your best is in your own mentality. And I think that's such an important message that you send there, Maria, about there's no one way to do this. Like there's no one way to reach the top on it. And because some might do really great of knowing exactly what their rep cadence is. And
and people who can't lift, like if the clock was to go off, they'd just be screwed, because they're rigidly tied to the clock, and I need to hit this rep by that time and this rep by that time. And that's what keeps them in tune, and that's what keeps them lifting. But I just never was that way. And sometimes it's to my downfall, because I remember I had a competition in Wexford, and off I went snatching away like a good thing. And like just over 2 minutes in, my left arm was starting to tire, and I'm like, oh my God, like what's happened? And I hung on till nearly 3 minutes, and then I had to swap hands, and I managed to do 7 minutes with my right hand. But I was like, Jesus, that was terrible. Like my left gave up early. But when I watched the video back, I'd done like 24 reps in my first minute. Oh. Like that's just stupid. Like adrenaline and giddy and anxiety and hype on the day. But like, so there's an example when watching the reps might have been a good idea. But for me in general, I prefer to just go ignorance is bliss, and to try and get into the rhythm on how it feels, how my body feels, and just kind of ignore the bell and ignore the time and ignore the clock.
Right. Well, and because so many people go into their training and into their practice just with this blind mentality of like, oh, this is the plan and it doesn't matter how the fuck I feel, like I'm going to do this exactly here. When in reality, yeah, that might work for a day, but if you're always doing that, then you're not really listening to your body. You're not getting into the fun and the creativity of it and really pushing through that extra potential. So I think as you hearing about how you trained in that, of just like feeling just what feels best for you, just getting into that mindset. I think that's so important for people to know, like, there's not that one way to do this. There's not one particular way. Play with all of them, see what feels best for you. Maybe a more intuitive or more kind of just creative flow of seeing how you feel for the day is going to be best for you. Maybe you need some more rigidity and just follow that for a period of time.
Yeah.
But
and it might change over time as well. Like, you know, I've had comps where I'll watch the clock for the whole thing, and then I'll have comps where I don't see the clock from the minute they say go until they say stop. So, you know, different things suit you at different times as well, and at different comps as well. So, and I think like if you train that way all the time, where you're constantly forcing it and working at your limit, there's no longevity in that, I don't think. So like I still want to be doing, if not kettlebells, something when I'm 80 and 90 years old. And I don't think my body will last if I treat it that way.
Right.
So I think the kettlebell sport, like trying to get better at kettlebell sport, has led me down the road of getting into like posture and breathing and relaxation. So how can I do all this stuff like training smarter? So not like, ooh, a magical technique nobody's thought of before, but like, how can I just stand better in my body every day? How can I breathe better every day in everything I'm doing? Because if I'm doing it every day when I go to lift bells, that's my platform as well. You know, there's no point in me saying I'll have this magical way of breathing while I'm lifting bells, because once you get tired, you go back to whatever your default is. You go back to the groove that you've worn day in, day out, doing everything that you do, which for me was chest breathing and holding my breath a lot, like working kind of up here, just like, and then just lift bells like that. No idea. So like letting all that relax, and ab breathing, and you know, nasal breathing, and just starting to investigate all of that. And like I'm lifting much better now. It feels easier. I'm lifting heavier, and I don't get any DOMs. Like I rarely get DOMs from lifting ever. So I mean, that's got to be good.
That's got to be good. Exactly. So do you do any specific kind of like restorative practice or recovery stuff like on other days? Like you mentioned breath work. Do you do breath training and like, or flexibility work or anything like that on other days?
I used to be a lot better at that stuff when I trained in the gym. I left the gym where I trained about 4 years ago. Before, when I was in there, like the floors were matted for jiu-jitsu. So we were down on the floors, and it was like a good 20 minutes of stretching out before training and after training, and it was brilliant. But since then, like I have all my bells at home now, and I train at home, and it's just not the same temptation to get down on the floor. So I used to do a lot of Indian clubs and mace work and all of that sort of stuff. I have them, I ignore them most of the time. Like I remember like when I trained for that first competition with the 12, I remember getting out of bed in the night to go to the loo, and I was like hunched, like I was bent in half, my shoulders were up here. I was like, I'm sure I'll be unfolded by the morning. And I was like little old lady, like curled up in a C, trying to walk to the toilet, going, it's totally worth it though, I love kettlebells.
Oh my gosh.
But I'm like, I found like when I was training, like I was constantly trying to crack my neck, and I was constantly squirming, trying to release my back, and just felt uncomfortable in my body all the time. So I used to get a massage every week, and I thought, well, if this is the price I have to pay to be super amazing, then, you know, I'll just pay it, because your active life is a relatively short part of your life. So if I'm just going to go for it and do what I can while I can, and then I'll be a crazy old bat in the nursing home going, I was in Kazakhstan lifting kettlebells, and I'd be like, she's off her meds again. Like, no, I actually was. No, someone believe me. Now this is my plan. And then the massages weren't working. Like, you know, I'd get a week's relief, and I'd go for another one, and then it was down to like 2 or 3 days relief. And then I got one time where I cycled home, and by the time I was home 20 minutes later, I was back up in a ball. And I was like, this isn't good. So between I read different books on breathing and some stuff on standing practice, like Qigong, that kind of stuff. And just it all, like the gym where I trained, were exposed to so many different ideas and stuff like that, and I just read them. And I'm the kind of person, if I go to a workshop and they tell me stuff, I'm like, I'm going to apply this, and I'm going to be the best person ever in the whole world. You wait and see. I'll have the secret edge, and nobody will know. So well, for me, it really comes down to the breathing stuff, which is like nasal breathing and trying to ab breathe.
Yes.
I was very anxious and very uptight and quite rigid. So when you can't do that sort of breathing if you're rigid, so it forces you to relax. And then I read a book called Unraveling by Greenfield, who is now my boyfriend, but everyone doesn't get a boyfriend if they read the book. I just need to point that out. It was just a happy coincidence. But he was all about the skeleton and resting on your skeleton, allowing your skeleton to hold you up. And I did not do that. I was all muscles. Up, forward, leaning forward all the time. So like imagine putting down 24 kilos on top of that. So I'm already holding myself up and forward on the balls of my feet. And then I'm trying to balance the kettlebell on top. Like it was just so hard.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
Like if I can learn to stand in my own body quite nicely and balanced, and that's easy, then putting a kettlebell on top of that is just like still hard, but so much bloody easier.
But so much more stable.
Yeah. And like all of that stuff, the breathing and the posture and the relaxation, that stuff is endless. There's just layers and layers and layers and layers of that stuff. Once you get one thing unlocked and you go, I'm doing nasal breathing, then it just opens up this whole other world of stuff. That, like I used to say, I'll die a perfect specimen, because I thought when I started this, I thought if I can just stand in my flat feet instead of being on the balls of my feet, then, I'll be stacked and then everything will be magical. So then I'd get back into my heels, but then that would release something further up the chain, which had been overcompensating. And I'm like, right, so if I can just get that to do its job, then I'll be a magical unicorn. And then that would be released, but it would knock something out. And I'm like, oh, for God's sake. So I was like, by the time I finish this process, I'll be dead. But that's the thing, like there is endless layers of it.
Yeah. Well, especially because your body changes so much with it. And I'm always interested in talking about like recovery work and breath work with people who actually train really hard as you do. It's like, because a lot of times we talk so much about recovery work and breath work, but we're not training that hard. It's like if you train hard, like you'll feel the differences of what feels best for you and the restorative. And the nose breathing is so interesting. I've had a chance to talk with Patrick McKeown from Oxygen Advantage.
Yes, I read his book. I've done workshops with him. He's the one who got started on all that stuff. Yeah.
Oh, he's just an absolute genius. And he just breaks it down into what breathing is. It's like, it's not supposed to be a high intensity based thing, like tumo breathing and deep breaths and stuff. Yeah. There's a benefit to that, but the first thing to do is just learn how to breathe slowly through your nose.
Yeah. And I find like I can do a lot of my kettlebell training now, nasal breathing. At the start, I couldn't. At the start, there was like so much snot, like just unbelievable. It was not pretty. But like what I find now is that if I like stand properly and relax, because I think once you like do your exercise, you're like, I'm doing my exercise and everything gets a bit het up. And then you're thinking, well, if I'm doing my exercise, then I need to do the exercise breathing, which is
exactly.
Or like breath holding where you and then at the end there's this massive release and exhale. And I was like, right, so I did Patrick's workshop and I was like, so do I actually need to be doing all that kind of breathing? And I remember going into training and just going, well, I'll just breathe normally until I can't breathe normally. And training just got really easy. Like a lot of the stuff, the intensity that was coming from training was me holding my breath and like breathing, like trying to breathe through a straw, like asthmatic breathing. Whereas like, so I'm like locking up all my chest muscles and then trying to breathe a lot into my chest. And if I don't do that, actually most of this is quite okay.
Right. That's so funny. I'm just going to breathe normal until I can't breathe. I'm like, yeah, absolutely. That's so perfect right there.
But when you see people training, they don't do that. They're doing like training breathing. I'm doing the training. So
more high intensity. Yep. It's like add more stress on top of it.
I look like this, I sound like this, because that's how everybody else is doing it. People like watch me lift and then they go, but like, you don't even look like you're doing anything. And I'm like, oh no, I am working hard, like, but I don't feel the need to be like,
yeah, exactly.
It's just like, I'll get there eventually, but you can actually just keep yourself quite calm. And and if you keep yourself stacked, then, to maintain the nasal breathing through the kettlebell, like lifting the 24 or whatever, you have to stay in a decent posture. You have to stand upright, and you have to stay relaxed onto your bones, and you have to breathe into your abs. You can't do it if you're chest breathing, and you have to relax all this stuff up here. Because I find with the nasal breathing, if you use your chest muscles and your nose and everything up here to suck the air in and out, that's when you get the snot. Whereas if you can relax all of this on your nose and just let your diaphragm pull the air in and out, then you don't get any snot. But that's easier said than done. But that's the secret to the no snot.
That's a mic drop right there. We're gonna close it out on the nose snot right there. Maria, this has been so awesome connecting with you. I really appreciate you taking the time, and I love seeing the journey that you've come into this world and everything that you succeeded with. So keep doing what you're doing. This is awesome.
I will. Thank you very much. Lovely to meet you.
Yeah. If people want to follow you more, kind of follow your journey, is there a good place that we can direct our listeners?
No, not really. Well, I can find me on Facebook. I don't really I'm not one of those people, but I'm on Facebook.
No problem. All right. Awesome. Well, listeners, if you want to find Maria, you can't, sorry. And
I'm very exclusive.
And no, Maria, thank you so much for this time. I really appreciate it. Listeners, thank you so much. We'll catch you on the next one. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found some great value here. And if you like this episode, please drop a comment and leave us a 5-star rating and review. It does more to build the show than you can imagine. And do not forget to check out and join the Strength Connection Facebook group. In this group, I share the biggest takeaways and lessons from these amazing conversations, as well as training and strength tips for pursuing mastery and fulfillment in life. This group is filled with individuals looking to take full control over their strength, and it's the perfect space to explore new ideas and to share your journey. And you'll also get exclusive access to these Strength Connection Mastery Seminars. It's a deep dive into the physical, mental, and spiritual training that you can begin using immediately. So do not wait, go now. Seriously, go. All right, much love to you. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you on the next one.